You're listening to the Back Home Network, presented by Home Field Apparel.
Welcome back to Crimson Cast. Galen Clavio joining you. Happy Monday. It's Monday evening, so you may not hear this until Tuesday, but happy beginning of the week. Happy first week of the IU coaching search season, as IU already a couple of days past the announcement that Mike Woodson will not be returning in the 2025-26 season and beyond. So we're already into coach search season, and there's a ton of content out there already. I'm guessing most of you listening to this have probably seen a lot of hot boards. You've got your own thoughts. We're going to dive in and talk about a couple of different things real quick. This is going to be a short podcast. This is like a mini pod to tide you over until the next time we do something. Quickly, just wanted to make sure to remind everybody that we're brought to you by Home Field Apparel, your place to go for the finest in college fashion, the softest fabrics, the coolest designs. Use the code HOME23, HOME23, to get 15% off your first order. You can order one of those sweet new IU hockey hoodies. You can order any of the amazing basketball or football materials that Home Field has put together for IU or for any other college or university. They've got almost all of them. Not 100% all of them, but almost all of them. And they have wonderful social media opportunities in terms of like just seeing how the sausage is made or how the t-shirts are made, how they choose designs, the history of some of the designs. Great content, new content coming out all the time there. So go check that out at their social media sites. And again, homefieldapparel.com, proud presenting sponsor of the Back Home Network. Also a reminder, we're on YouTube. Go to the Back Home Network channel on YouTube. Just search Back Home Network. You can join the over 7,100 subscribers who are getting our podcast via video. For those of you who are still just doing the audio, and for everybody for that matter, be sure to subscribe to us on Substack, crimsoncast.substack.com. It's free to start, and there's also a paid tier if you'd like to help support the podcast a little bit more. Anyway, again, real quick podcast, but as we dive into coaching season, I was thinking about, what could Indiana do that would be bold? Where could they go that would be a little bit different? And what would make the most sense in this coaching search in terms of trying to balance getting a great coach who could be here for a while and win titles, which I know is, we're not just talking about national titles, talking about Big Ten titles. Where could Indiana go with all of this? And we've heard a lot of names bandied about. There's one that hasn't been bandied about, and I actually think this is where Indiana should start. Because it is, from my perspective, you've got to try to hit a bunch of different things at once if you're going to do this hire properly. You think about where Indiana's at right now. People complaining about a lack of a program identity. People complaining about a lack of recruiting success or recruiting effort, as the case may be, at least at the head coach level. You're talking about a lack of a tangible strategy in terms of recruiting and how that feeds into things. You talk about concerns over, the way that game planning has occurred and how that has fed into the week by week efforts that the team's had over the last couple of years. And also, I think just the general malaise in terms of the connective tissue between the fan base and the head coach. And I was thinking, there aren't a whole lot of coaches that really fit that core criteria of people who are demonstrably excellent coaches, who have done a good job of forging an identity for their program, who recruit really well, particularly in Big Ten territory, coaches who have had a lot of success in terms of winning, conference titles and being competitive in the NCAA tournament, and coaches also who I think would be financially gettable for Indiana that check all those boxes. Like, obviously, someone like Dan Hurley is an amazing coach, a little quirky, but can clearly recruit, can clearly build a program identity and get things up in a short period of time. But Hurley's such an East Coast guy. His wife's an East Coast woman. I don't see him leaving UConn. So it did get me thinking, is there anybody that would check all those boxes who you could throw a lot of money at and really change the trajectory of the program? And I figure, if you hire the right guy, if you're willing to spend the right amount of money, you're probably going to see Indiana spend between $9 or $10 million a year on their head basketball coach. I use one of the few places in college basketball where you should spend that amount of money on a head basketball coach because, normally with basketball, it's a secondary thing. You're not going to earn as much as football. You're not going to earn as much as football, even with IU men's basketball, but you do earn a lot. And from an alumni perspective, from a fan perspective, from a profile perspective, and in terms of the identity of the program, IU's in a very small amount of schools, along with Kansas, North Carolina, Duke, and Kentucky, where it really would make sense to spend that amount of money on a head coach. And I think you'll probably need to spend that amount of money to get the head coach that you want. So I thought about all those different criteria, and I actually really think that the first call that IU makes in terms of hiring a head coach or trying to hire a head coach, obviously taking the Brad Stevens thing and putting it aside, if we're just focusing on college coaches, I actually think that the guy that they should call and offer $10 million a year to is Matt Painter. And I know a lot of you are probably going to laugh or be like, you can't be serious, but hear me out on this. Matt Painter has demonstrated, I think, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that he is an excellent college coach. He has, this remarkable string of successes at Purdue. I mean, you go back and you look at what Purdue has done over the last 10 years. They would have probably missed the tournament in 2020, but there was no tournament that year, so it didn't count. The rest of the time that he's been at Purdue since 2015, Purdue's been a 9 seed, a 5 seed, a 4 seed, a 2 seed, a 3 seed, a 4 seed, a 3 seed, a 1 seed, and they're tracking, and they were a 1 seed again. And right now they're tracking towards probably a 3 seed, maybe a 2 if they continue to win and play at the level that they've been at. He's been to a Sweet 16, an Elite 8, a Sweet 16, a second place finish. Yes, there's a couple of round one losses in there, but I think you'll find that with most people that are going to be in the search. He knows how to recruit the state of Indiana and the Midwest. He knows how to recruit to a system. He's out-recruited multiple Indiana coaches now over the course of his career to get the types of players that a lot of IU fans would love to have at IU. A lot of people would recoil at first about this idea, but then I would really ask people, like, who would have a problem with hiring Matt Painter? Like, what would you be looking at where you'd say Matt Painter's not good enough for IU? He's only 49 years old. He'll be 50 years old in, I think it's this year, 55 years old. He's 54 right now. He'll be 55 in August. And, you look at the statistical breakdowns. They lose Zach Edey, who was clearly a force of nature, especially offensively. Last year they were 4th in the country in offense. This year they're 7th in the country in offense. Is that to remake the team around a team that does not have a 7-4 guy who's mobile and able to do things in the paint? Has had a lot of success with a lot of different types of players. And I also just think from Matt Painter's perspective, there'd be a lot of things he might not ever. I don't know that he could actually ever do it. Like he could never go home again. But think about it from Matt Painter's perspective. This is a guy who had that resume I just read, went to the national title game last year. He's only making $4.85 million a year at Purdue. And that's after they extended his contract again this offseason. $4.85 million for that record. He's getting severely underpaid. Yes, I know he's probably taken less money so that his assistants can be paid and so that NIL money can exist at higher levels at Purdue. But that's kind of a problem, isn't it? I mean, how do you really, and we've seen this with Purdue. Look at what's happening with their football program. Like they didn't go out and hire a top level coach to replace Jeff Brom when he left. Then they end up, when they fire Ryan Walters, they didn't hire a top coach. They had to go hire Barry Odom, a UNLV coach who's a retread. That's not an athletic department with a lot of money or a lot of resources. Yes, I think they've actually punched well above their weight. But Matt Painter, if he's being honest with himself, he's like, I'm never going to make as much as my contemporaries, many of whom I'm better than as a head coach, just based upon the record that I've demonstrated over the last, 17, 18 years. I'm probably never going to win a title at Purdue. Like that really felt like the one shot that he was going to have last year to win a title at Purdue where everything kind of came together. You can win a title at Indiana. It's been demonstrated. You can't win a title at Purdue. It's been demonstrated. And I think at the very least, even if he was like, I'm not going to take the IU job in a million years, much like he did, 5, 6, 7 years ago or whatever it was when he was openly flirting with the Mizzou job, he used that to get more money from Purdue. He could do the same thing here. I mean, if IU puts $10 million on the table, which more than doubles the salary that he would have at Purdue, and also puts the NIL budget in front of him and the assistant budget and the travel budget for recruiting and all those other things, and says, Matt, you've got a solid 15 years. We want this to be your home. Does he take the job? Probably not. Does he go back to Purdue and say, IU just offered me more than double my salary. We need to renegotiate the terms. Purdue's going to have to do it. Maybe there's a point where they're like, wow, we can't actually afford that. Then maybe he does reconsider. And I don't know that there'd be a lot of IU fans, again, who would, you might have a hard time getting your head wrapped around the job or the idea of him in the job. But as many IU fans have expressed envy over what Purdue's been able to build, as many times as we've heard, well, Purdue has the program that Indiana had 30 years ago. I think it would be one of those things where IU fans, after a little bit of scratching their heads, would be like, wow, this is awesome. You'd get the double benefit of having a really, really good coach, like a top-level coach in college who's demonstrated that he knows how to win with less resources, in the head spot at IU, a guy who grew up an IU fan, who understands the state, has clearly been very successful in the Big Ten. You'd have that guy on your sideline. And even if he has to say no, he's got to go back to Purdue and be like, you guys got to pay me more money because IU came through with a big offer, and probably an offer a lot more commensurate with the worth that Matt Painter really has as a head basketball coach. So anyway, that's my thought on the coaching search today. And I'll have more thoughts moving forward. We'll have some smaller snippets of things and some larger ones as well as we talk through what's going on with this coaching search. We'll have our own. Probably not going to do a hot board, but we're going to talk through all the candidates at some point soon. So stay tuned for that. We'll go ahead and wrap things up here. I hope you all have a wonderful night or morning, depending on when you're listening or watching this. But I'm Galen Clavey. This is Crimson Cast. We'll catch you folks on the flip side. The IU coaching search continues, and we'll see where things go with it. Again, catch you folks on the flip side. Stay never daunted. Bring back the Bison. So long, everybody.